Hello, everyone. Welcome to a hot August night edition of GBC Live. I'm Zach, and we are going to be talking with Dave Sheek of Mammoth Tuff. Uh, I went to the initial event 2 years ago. Maybe I can hijack this and talk about how it's my favorite gravel event that I've been to. Not just the riding, but everything about the weekend because it is a destination weekend. And just to note now, as part of this destination weekend, I guess me and Dom from Thank Gravel It's Friday are going to be co-hosting the Shakeout Ride at 11 o'clock the day before. There's going to be tons of other things going on around the weekend. It's not just the ride; it's a great excuse to enjoy Mammoth and everything else around there. So let's bring Dave in and say hello. And good evening, Dave.
Hey there, how are you?
Uh,
I think you already got it all answered. You can just tell us your experience and it's better.
well, I'll just continue on. Like, I'm just trying to think of places. I've been to a fair amount of events and a lot of great ones, but there's just something really special about the venue that you have there. That everything is centered around the village. The race starts there, the beer mile. But even if you're not really part of the event, that's where you want to be just to hang around Mammoth, anyways.
Yeah.
And it's just so central to that. It's close to all the riding. It's close to all the lakes above. It's just such a great send out point, and especially if you're staying like right across the street, it's just so easy to pop in and out.
Yeah.
After the event, you can quickly take a shower and come back.
Yeah.
All the food places, maybe that's a detriment because you have to make a choice instead of having just one place to eat.
Yeah, we have some good partners with that stuff too. But yeah, like the town, people don't really understand it's 4 square miles. So kind of where the village is at, anywhere you stay is really mile and a half max. And there are options, like you're saying, like right across the street. Like Alpenhof, one of our partners with the event, is literally across the street from the starting line. But yeah, there's a lot of options in town, obviously, because it is a ski town, and there's still camping and stuff that time of year. And so, yeah, there's plenty for everybody to do. Still last weekend of the bike park. So if you are coming up, and you want to go play on the mountain bikes, you still have one more day of chairlifts on Sunday before they close them for the year. So it's like, yeah, a lot of fun stuff kind of going on with the event.
Yeah. And yeah, when I was there 2 years ago, you could tell the town was still a little coming off of COVID. Businesses, you definitely saw businesses were reopening while we were there. So I've seen how busy the ski season has been since then, and everything else. So uh, yeah, there's a lot to do, but it's just so easy to be part of it, which is really great. And
Yeah.
that's just one thing that if anyone's doing this event, you don't come in Friday night and leave Saturday. You want to make it a full weekend. Try and come in Thursday if you can. Get a little acclimated to the elevation, doesn't hurt either. But
Yeah.
if you're going to make this trip, I mean, there's just so many things to do that you're going to see everyone else post about it. So you want
Yeah.
to post about it too.
Yeah. We kind of set it up that way because it is one of those, destinations. Even if you're coming from LA or like the Bay Area, like you're going to drive. And so we wanted to make sure people were coming up to acclimate a little bit and have things across all the days of the weekend. So we're sticking to the same format we have the past 2 years, and it'll continue to build off of this. And so it's kind of a Friday. We'll start doing shakeout rides that you guys are leading at 11 a.m. from Footloose Sports, which is just downtown. It's like maybe a half mile from the village, the starting line. And then while everybody's out riding, if they want to do those, we're setting up in the village, and at 2 o'clock when everybody's back and cleaned up, then from 2 to 7 p.m. we'll have registration open in the village. And then I think it's 4:30 now. Yeah, 4:30 we're doing the bear mile again, which is always a great idea. First day at altitude to come and do that and run around. It's not a full mile, so if you're worried about that, you don't have to, because it's like 0.9. And then this year we'll follow it up right away with the riders meeting, and then we'll record that and put it online too, in case people just want to get out of there and go get dinner. They can watch it later. And we're always trying to think of like what's the easiest way to create the balance for people, because we want people to come and enjoy for a few days, because they are kind of making a leap to get out to Mammoth. Then Saturday morning event, Sunday we save the awards, and then we do Sunday morning awards, start that stuff off first into our raffle, which is always a fun one that we kind of take pride in. Like each year we've had at least $10,000 worth of product from the industry, and we're almost right there again. So
Oh, wow.
got a few more weeks to collect some things, but right now the big ticket items are a new Shimano 12-speed Di2 drivetrain and wheel set, and a Niner RLT gravel frame carbon. So yeah. And there's other things in there that are super cool too.
Maybe I should be talking people out of coming, so my chances are better.
Just buy more tickets.
Yeah, I remember that the Niner frame 2 years ago was envy of everyone. I know Danny got that, and he had to walk back to the parking lot very carefully to make sure no one was going to jump him.
Big concerns in Mammoth.
Yeah. So now that this is year 3. And you guys have extensively gone over and mapped the courses out and check everything, and but I imagine once you actually have hundreds of people out there, that things kind of run a little bit differently rather than a handful of people. Like what have you learned in practice when you have a lot of people out there for an event that the real world circumstances?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of had this plan anyway of like the years where it's like build the courses so there's a progression, and then people will want to go like short, medium, long. But yeah, I'd say the biggest learning is that the long was so difficult that people are kind of afraid, but the success rate with it's crazy. Like when I look at some of these other events out there, and like I've done Unbound, I've done Mid South, I've done, like Dirty Reaver in the UK, like some of these pretty insane events, I'm like, we have a way better finishing rate than anybody. And I want to give like some credit to like the rider's guide, but I don't know what is going on. But yeah, people come and they just kind of push through and get it done. So that's good. But we have seen like where the short course was like the biggest crowd, and then now the medium is the biggest, but the long course isn't growing as much. And so I'd say this year, after people do the new long course, that'll be like the takeaway is people will come back and it'll be like, okay, yeah, now you got to go do the long course, because it goes to a pretty cool area that we've been riding for a while, but I was always leery of like, well, do I want to include that because it'll go back out to this pavement? And so after reading all the surveys for a couple of years and listening to feedback, and we do a camp in Bishop in April or May, I forget right now. And so I think it's May, because we do April in Kansas. And so taking people out and letting them during camp get some experience with parts of the course, so they get to break it down, like that's been good for feedback too. So this year it was really cool to be able to take a group of like 6 or 7 and go do the pre-rides. And yeah, we had 0 complaints with anything, which is always good.
Hmm.
So
Well, quickly, people, if you're on Facebook or Instagram, hop on here onto YouTube if you want to comment. It makes it a little simpler. Like this comment here, because you don't make it back, you'll die. I don't think anyone has happened. We probably would have heard about that if that was correct, right?
I don't know. There's no cell service out there on the far point. So if
Okay.
the Jeep clubs that we bring in for the weekend or the ham radio operators haven't found them, then they might still be out there.
Hmm.
But yeah, no, we have a good return rate. At the end of the day, don't let anybody go home until every rider is accounted for. So yeah, we've had no issues with that. It is like and the rider's guide will say it, that just released yesterday. It'll kind of remind you that depending on which course and where you're at, like there's not a lot of cell service once you get out there.
Um, here I'm going to throw on just in the background here. This was our video, kind of the middle course, just so people get an idea in the background. You don't have to comment on it, but I know
This is rolling out of town and into the start of the medium course, and so yeah, this is kind of going around an area they call Shady Rest Park, and this is you guys going into the first climb, heading out onto the course.
Damn, I have to edit that out. I no longer have the KOM. Someone went out afterwards and took
Somebody
my KOM.
sniped you.
Yeah, and I just have, now leading the helping lead the shakeout ride. I know it kind of goes through that area, so I may have to drop a few people. I may not be a good leader.
All right.
This part here, but well, I know you talked about the long course, but is there going to be any differences between the mid, and the short course?
Yeah, we've been playing with some so like kind of those what you were just showing right there, that's out in the Owens River Valley. And so that's passing this range called Arcularius. And we're playing with some different turns out there that kind of go in and out of the trees off of Owens River Road. And so yeah, that's about the most I can say of it. Is we're playing with some ideas of some different little loops back into the main roads. But it kind of depends on, after that big winter, we had a lot of issues with fallen trees and stuff. And so there's a lot of logging going on. I got to give it a few more weeks and see what happens with the logging trucks and what's been cleared and what's safe to ride out there.
Now the short course has been the one that has done the most, or percentage wise, going into the trees and forest, whereas the other ones, you're spending a lot more time out in the open space like this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, yeah, short course will jump in from town like closer, and so you're up near tree line, and then as we kind of go out towards that Owens River Valley, that's where it opens up into more space like you're seeing here. And so we have options to kind of turn back into some of those trees, but yeah, we're still, like I said, we're still playing with some of it. It's always just like a last minute decision of what's rolling well at the time, what's happening with the storms at the end of August, beginning of September, so we can make sure the roads are rolling the best.
I know that you typically say you need a tire that starts with the number 4 at least to get you through here. And good, we have a tire question that will follow up what I was going to bring up. But is it just me, or does it seem like when you're in the forest and with the trees that it just gets to be a little sandier than when you're in the open space? Maybe because the trees block some of the wind, whereas maybe kind of like when you're in the valley a little bit more, that the wind might disperse some of the dust around.
Yeah, there's something with the different zones, like up near craters and the stuff that you're talking about. Like Mammoth is a inactive volcano, so Tuff, and the name came from the material that's left behind from a volcano. So we have a lot of pumice, or like you saw on the start of the medium course last year, a lot of obsidian and other um, debris that's left around. And so that's why we get that softer material once it kind of breaks up. But yeah, for some reason up near the higher elevations in that kind of zone, it does hold a little softer. So we try to make sure that the roads that we're using, yeah, we go in a certain direction. Like you've tried that before, going backwards up that short course in the craters area, and it's like almost impossible to ride. Whereas when you kind of have the false descent and it's 2% downhill, it just rolls a lot better. You still have to pedal, but yeah, then as you get out onto those open roads and near the ranches, there's definitely some infrastructure there where the county and the Caltrans teams have done more repairs to some of those OHB roads, so you have things that roll a little bit better.
Bjorn here has, I guess, a follow-up question. Knobby's front with file tread rear, or Knobby's front and rear?
It's always depends on the driver, Like there was an entire summer where Amanda just rode 44 slicks for everything, so she just didn't have to bring a road bike up, and she's fine and comfortable with sliding turns. I'm not, so I run knobbies, but it really just kind of depends on the individual. Yeah, like I'm always gonna lean back to what Jan and the team over at Renee Hurst have, because it's just like you have two choices. You either go full slick or you go with the knobby, and the knobs are generally closer together, so they roll really well. And then it's just a little bit padded comfort there. But there's so many options out there now. I can't say what's the best or not. It's more just what are people comfortable with based on their bike handling.
I think I might be going wider but less knobbier, if that makes sense. So
yeah, you can fit more tire in there.
Yeah, and just in terms of finding the right tire pressure is definitely, I feel, far more important in some of these sections here.
Yeah.
And I remember this part here, the descent in. This was probably on the Tuff course, the one where
2 years ago.
Yeah.
And so this was only on the long course last year, and this descent, and it'll only be on the long course this year, but this descent is definitely difficult. When we originally made the routes like 5 years ago, there's another road that comes off of this over that hill to the left, and we used to call it Sierra Cogsida. And this was one of the learning experiences like along the way where I was so excited about it that we had this like sandy descent for 2 miles, and I brought up some riders to go pre-ride with me. And then, yeah, like Cogsida is a famous cyclocross course that's in Belgium. And so it's in a beach town, and literally the whole course is like sand dunes. And so, yeah, we had this Sierra Cogsida descent Amanda and I were so excited about. And then I took people out to pre-ride with me, Yuri, who's won Unbound in the past, and Brandon, who won Tuff last year. And by the time we were halfway through the day, they were so cracked and angry with me that from there, things have started to get a little bit easier. But yeah, it's still a fun descent. I went out there the other 2 weekends ago, and they just did a bunch of repairs to it. So there's 2 sections that are softer. The rest of it is best I've seen it in probably 5 years, which is great.
One question now that with the feedback, like what are the parts people are talking about have been their favorite of the courses so far?
It kind of just depends on each course, when you go into like the short course, like it's really kind of everything up in those trees like you're talking about, kind of descending down from Craters area and then kind of out to Owens River Road and playing in the trees there. Um, and then the medium course, it's kind of like once people get to ride some of that stuff, but then we send them out to the back of Crowley Lake towards Crowley Dam. And then you get these like huge open views of, you can see Mount Tom down above Bishop. You can see Mount Morrison directly in front of you. You can see McGee and all these peaks while you're like overlooking the entire lake, and then come back. And then as you turn around and come back and you look out east, you have the White Mountains up there, which is another 14er. And so, yeah, like people always talk about that area going out towards the dam. And then in the long course, it's always like the Red Rock Canyons that look like Star Wars out there, and that's just a totally different experience. And most people, even that live in town, don't even know it's out there.
And I know this part here, we're getting towards the end. I know the year we did that section climbing up, it was pretty windy. I think I probably towed Vic. Don't let anyone know about that. But but coming back and just having all the food here right in front of us too. Is this the same arrangement? Please, is it the same arrangement with all the food right there in the village again?
Yeah, so we'll get their food and drink ticket Friday night, and then we'll bring back in Rolling Chef. We'll have Pizza Co. They can use tickets at Gomez as a credit towards whatever else they want on the menu. And then, yeah, we're still figuring out what the other option is. But yeah, it's cool in the sense that like Rolling Chef is one of my favorite little hidden gems of the 395 in the Eastern Sierra. It's just such good food. And or you can go over to Pizza Co. and it's like a sliced pizza. It's bigger than your entire head. So that's always fun too. And you can get it dressed up, but yeah, like everything's right there at the finish. Or yeah, with this year, it's people want to go and get cleaned up quick because you are so close to everything in town and you want to come back. Like we'll have Pelly there, which is a company that'll be doing some bike wash at the finish line. And you come back and get your bike cleaned up before you go back to lodging, or you could go get cleaned up and come back and bring your bike and have things prepped again and looking good. And they'll tell you about the stuff that they're using and what it does in the wash to protect it for the future. And then we'll have the Hammerhead demo program going again Friday night. That just went online on Bike Reg, so if anybody wants to try the new Karoo, that's available. I think there's only 10, so they should take advantage of that quickly because that's free, and they'll basically set everything up for you for the weekend if you want to try out the new head unit. And then we'll have Shimano coming in to help with neutral support Friday night for any last minute fixes, questions, this or that. And then they'll be out on course for Saturday at the event.
Oh, wow. I know Amanda saved me with a Karoo, and yeah, I've been using that. The color and makes it pretty easy to navigate.
Yeah.
Your way
I feel
around.
like you're looking at a phone more than just like a head unit,
Yeah, it's definitely help me navigate. It's very thoughtful in its layout, and it's very comfortable. And I know you switch to any device, it takes a slight adjustment, but the adjustment wasn't long, and it's super useful, and it's a little bit bigger than kind of like bigger than the small, but smaller than the big, and it seems to be about the right size in there, and yeah, I can't say enough good things. It's kind of like the Wizard of Oz when like a first movie went into color. That's how I feel like it.
It is pretty true. It's like after all the years of going from like first Unbound I ever did, it was like Garmin 500. So there was no navigation. It was still cue cards, and you didn't get the cue cards until the night before, and then you had like a couple hours to either like laminate them or something else, but nothing was released, and that was just the way it was, so people couldn't make maps and things. And then yeah, like going into the years of like all the little pixelated dots that you would follow, like cookie crumbs, to now having like a map that looks like your phone that you can actually interact with, where if you want to turn around, um, yeah, you could go and drop a pin on it and then ride back to the start if you had a problem.
Another thing I wanted to bring up and is your extensive rider guide, which is
Oh, this is the new one. Nice.
every really just all the information here really. And I'm sure even after you guys have been in depth, this is year 3, you still get questions about everything out there. But I know one thing that you and Amanda have really tried to tell people before coming, and it's in the manual, is getting the right type of gear, having the right type of gearing,
Yeah.
and also being at elevation, trying to drink water. Have people been on top of that so far? Because I feel like you guys have really gone out of your way, and I'm sure there's always some people that still overlook it, but I feel like a lot of people have gone through all this information, and people have got to love it. I definitely appreciate being able to go through something like this. But have people been hopefully been listening?
For the most part, I mean, I that's why I want to credit like some of the success to, like, I know how hard the long course is, or has been. This year it'll roll a lot better and smoother. We had that big winter that really made the course just so hard last year, and so many things just, yeah, so much material moved around and made things roll slower. And so it was good to change the course this year, and we had plans to anyway. But yeah, like, even still with how hard it was last year, and knowing how much there was hiking sections, or how much sections they had to, like, how much mileage they had to hike, like, still people had to hike like 3 miles last year. It's not like a muddy day at Mid South or Unbound or something, but it wasn't easy, especially when you keep stopping and dumping pumice and stuff out of your shoes. And so, yeah, like, I would definitely say that the rider's guide, like, if people are reading it, they know how to be more prepared. And so
Mhm.
I got to give credit to the fact that, like, yeah, like, when I see some of these other events and you're like, wow, there's like a 40% failure rate. And then I look at what we're doing, I'm like, there's 6 people that quit. They're like 400. Like, it's not bad, So that's always a good thing. But yeah, at the end of the day, still, please read the writer's guide. We talked about making t-shirts that say, did you read the writer's guide? So like when people do come to ask questions. But I think the crew out in what is it, Montana or whatever, they're doing a pretty good job with that one. They just took Sharpies and wrote it on white t-shirts, and they've been wearing them at the event for the past 2 years for last best ride.
This is a good question. I thought I didn't know this was still a factor, but any advice navigating the I-395 closure up in Bridgeport, Sonora, is that still going on?
Yeah, it'll still be going on, but with the closure, there is a reroute, and so it kind of just pulls them around to a different valley. But yeah, everything's online. People can find the reroute online. Otherwise, they'll have the signs up for um, for which way to go, and the suggested detour that's online. It's totally fine. Like, we went and looked at it, and because there are a couple different options, but the suggested reroutes perfect. Like it might take you an extra 20 minutes.
Oh, okay. That's not so bad. It's not like
Yeah.
where they're
No, and it's weird. Like when you get up near Bridgeport, because there is more. Yeah, like I don't know what's with the roads, but when I went up to Truckee Gravel earlier this year, it's like all the construction on the road. I mean, they brought everybody down to single lanes, and then one side goes, and then you wait there for 20 minutes, and the other side goes, and there are only a certain number of cars. Like it was a good 2 hour holdup each direction, and so now that they have a reroute and they've just closed things, it's going to be way better than how it's been earlier in the summer.
Now another. I mean, like there's so many outstanding things that are associated with this event. Um, this one here. If I could pull it back up. Oh, come on, please share it. Oh no, here we go. This year's T-shirt. I
Yeah.
mean, you guys, the skateboard theme has been great. This one is pretty awesome, and maybe you have to be of a certain age to really appreciate it. My daughter doesn't know who Bones Brigade is. Try to explain, but Steve Caballero, he's really into mountain biking.
Yeah.
He gave this a thumbs up, didn't he?
Oh yeah. Yeah, we were stoked on that. I think it's more, yeah, me growing up and seeing that stuff and just having that influence of like Southern California and board sports, growing up in Orange County and always surfing and skating and then snowboarding as I got older. It's like there's always a piece of that there, but it's yeah, it's always fun to play with it. Like first year we did the Bones Brigade, and so the artist that I use, Randy Naborikawa, is a local guy who's worked in the surf skate snow industry, and so he's actually doing tattoos too as well as freelance work at this time. But yeah, he always has a fun time with it, and so we did the original Bones, but it was a mammoth skull ripping out of the shirt, and then last year was a knockoff of Mike Vallely, another skater from Orange County, his board, and then this year is the cab board. Got some other ideas stirring up for next year already.
Is it have to do with someone who's was a skateboarder but might be known more for mountain bikes?
Possibly.
Because that, if you guys don't use that idea, then
It's gonna get used at some point.
Yeah. I actually still have that board and the original, although I did scab the paint, which I'm like, why did I love that board so much. I'm not gonna. I won't say it. We'll leave that away from people. But yeah, I do have a favorite from the '80s.
Yeah.
Here's someone else question for Solar. What would be the ideal route for this? Time going east to west. Well, I mean, we have the Donner Party that I guess kind of gives some suggestions when you shouldn't be going through here. You can probably get across the country in a month or two. I don't know. How would you do it?
And just depends on the route.
Yeah. I do. Yeah. I would
There's definitely some spots that I avoid at certain times of the year, but you got to pass the Rockies.
So I do have to give you a non-Mammoth Tuff question, but congratulations again on Unbound XL.
Yeah.
I probably didn't get much sleep either. I was following you and then our friend Sally. It was funny because you guys were always kind of crossing paths. And
yo.
But I just don't know what you do because you're out there with people do you work with people? Do you just kind of like respect the fact that you just know that you just may be at different points at different times that you're out there? Like, is it just better just to kind of like stick to your own plan instead of like bouncing off of others? Because, you have how many hours to finish 350 miles? Is it 20? Is it 30 hours to finish 350?
I forget what the time is. My time is never to be out there that long. It
Well,
just
who
winds
is?
up being longer than what I always planned. Like this year was going to be 24 hours was kind of like the goal. And so maybe 26, and yeah, I think it wound up being like 29 something, or forget what it was, but it's like you go into it, and like it's changed over the years. In the beginning, I think like the riders made rules like let's just not draft off each other. And then now it's like, yeah, let's draft, and it's a race, and like they start and it's crazy. Like even this year, and like one of the mistakes I made is just because I'm always so afraid to like eat just everything that's at a gas station or a liquor store is like, okay, I got dietary issues. I can't eat anything that has dairy, and these people are like living off of cheese pizza at night and other things that I'm like, well, I can't get into a Casey's and just have like pizza and Coke and a cup of coffee and get on the road again. So if I get there and then they are sold out of other things, like, okay, I better make sure I have this. And so, like, I take off and my bike is a tank as usual. But like the first 4.5 hours, like the highest power I've ever had for that amount of time. And I'm like, my fitness is not like a decade ago. And then you're like, okay, should I still stick with these guys right now? Because we're going so hard. So you kind of like your plan changes throughout the day where you're like, you go and you're like, oh, I'm gonna stay in this group because it's free speed. I'm gonna draft, and then you
Uh-oh. Did he cut out? Do I have to tell people what I think this experience is like now that Dave's
got
left?
it.
Now you're back in. Yes.
Yeah. So I was basically saying like, yeah, the plan changes throughout the entire evening, and it's just kind of a wild experience. And so you there. Yeah, I went this year with like, oh, I'm gonna go and just have a clean ride, and I'll pack more and just go and have it smooth because the year before with all the mud and everything else, it was brutal. And I found out again that there's, and I got reminded by Amanda and JP, who's won is that like there really is nothing such as a clean ride, and so kind of just have to learn to go more with the flow and make a plan, but be willing to accept changes with that plan, and just yeah, like the longer the event, the more that you can go with the flow, the better that it is. And I'm very much like my event, like got a plan. Here's logistics for this. Like I want all these things to go in a row because then it's easier to adapt to these things and deal with this situation or that. Whereas like when you're out on a bike ride, it's like you really just got to be able to go with the flow and take, ride in the moment and based on how you feel, because what you plan to do at hour 10 might not be what's happening at hour 10 when you get there. And if you don't have like the ability to go with the flow, it just gets ugly. So, yeah, the experience from Unbound is always just a vision quest. You get out there, you get super uncomfortable, things go wrong, and then you
Yeah.
just kind of start to learn to go with the flow.
Uh, I think that there's two types of finishers for XL. There are those that do it once and never think about doing it again. And then I
Yeah.
think there's people that keep wanting to find a better ride. So my guess is not you finished it twice. I don't think you're done. Am I right?
I'm definitely taking a year off this year. Um, yeah, it's, I don't know. There's still part of me that's like, I know I can do this better. I know I can do that better, but we'll see. I told myself I was gonna wait a year and then see where everything was at. But yeah, it takes a big chunk of time to get ready for it, and then it takes away from other things, and my plans for 25 are just different right now. So I have some more ideas for Mammoth Tuff, and yeah, and some other events that I want to do, or just big rides that I want to go experience that have nothing to do with like racing.
But what I'm kind of feeling is like maybe in February you're kind of feeling it. You're like, okay, I'm a good move. I can do this. I'm kind of halfway there, you know.
Oh, that's pretty true. It's how it happened last year. I was up here and I was in a snowstorm, and I'm like, I don't want to ask, for a favor to anybody at Lifetime, so I'll just put my name in the hat. And then uh, I wasn't paying attention to the announcement, and other people were messaging Amanda like, "Oh, Dave's doing the 350 again," and I'm like, "Oh, I guess I got accepted." That's how I found out. So the thing about the lottery system there is generally once you're in and you're doing it, they'll keep you in. Whereas if you take a foot out, then it's harder to get back in.
Oh boy.
So that's the hard part, right? Like they kind of got you a little bit where they're like, "Well, don't you want to come back? Because then it's going to be harder to get back in."
So I
I don't
think
know.
I feel like I spoke a lot of truth without really working too hard to get there.
It's a demon, you know. It's
Mm-hmm.
a yeah. It like this year's experience there was super. It's always fun. Like last year in the mud was pretty rough, and but at the end of the day, you're like, wow, how did I get through that? And then you have like this experience that's just kind of beyond anything you've ever done. And then this year is kind of the same. Like it all started with just like hitting a rock. It shut down my entire Di2 system. Never had anything that crashed like this before when it hit my rear derailleur. And then I was like calling people at like 11:30 at night, trying to get them to help me fix my bike on the phone. And so I'm like pedaling to the tops of hills to get service. And finally got it to work like an hour later. And then I had like GI issues, which I've never had like this, where I couldn't eat for like 6 or 7 hours. And so I really couldn't pedal hard. I was just kind of riding, but it was it was not a fun experience. And then by the next day, things like had calmed down, and then it was like, okay, change your mindset. You're not racing this, but you can finish. You're going to be just uncomfortable. And then it's like taking in just everything that's out there, and stopping and having a hamburger with a guy who's just barbecuing on the side of the road, or going and like visiting people in the small towns and just like chatting with them and just kind of getting the whole experience. It's different. But that's kind of the cool part about the gravel community anyway. Even with these things like tough and things, it's like, yeah, you look at the people that go out there, and it's like the community is always helping each other, and that's the raddest part about it. You get a flat, you don't know what to do, there's always going to be somebody that like pitches in or gives advice or has the extra part or this or that, and that's kind of the best part about it. And everybody has like a different experience. It's like even you and sharing the things with Tough and how you see it, it's like I love it because I see a lot of it the same way, where yeah, I'm up here more, but I still find it such an amazing town, and what it offers and what's actually out there on the east side of the 395. And so, and then it's also like the people that are coming up and doing it for the first time, and then you kind of see them progress from like the short course to the medium course, and we see that a lot with the camps too. And it's like I love all of it. That's like the coolest thing about this gravel community, and just kind of what happens within it. it's way different than road racing and mountain bikes and everything else. It's just not as serious and a lot more fun.
Well, do you have any parting words? I know we're 3.5 weeks away. That sounds, yeah,
Is
three and
that
a
what
half.
it is now?
Yeah,
Oh,
almost in
wow.
the 20s of getting there. But I'm trying to encourage people because I'll be there, Vic will be there, the Thank Gravel people. I know some Gravel Stoke, and
Yeah.
that's the other thing I forgot to bring up too is just there's just a lot of people from the community, people you see at other rides. Everybody's so friendly just to hang out with, and kind of like going full circle back to the start of this conversation. Uh, it's an easy place to run into people and talk, and I think we'll be at Mammoth Brewery Thursday night, and last time we were there we ran into a bunch of people there, and yeah, you're not just in and out, and you get to move at your own pace too, which is fantastic. But your parting words.
Read the rider's guide. If you're coming to the event, make sure you do your homework. If you're coming up to altitude, you're not used to it, hydrate on your way up. That means using electrolytes. Stay hydrated when you're here. When you get to higher elevations, and it'll explain it in the rider's guide, there's not less oxygen. The molecules have separated. The air is drier. Therefore, when you talk, when you breathe, just to stay alive, your body has to moisturize things more. So the more hydrated you are, the easier it is on your body. Back to the whole like post-COVID thing, and we saw a lot of people starting to come up here and ride more, and the town has embraced more of what we're doing with Mammoth Tuff, and it's pretty awesome. And I've been working with Mammoth Lakes Recreation recently, and in the coming years for people that are getting into gravel. Like, we're building out routes that are from town, right from Shady Rest Park, like the start of the medium course, and the infrastructure behind it for us to start building these routes that will actually get more maintained are going to be something that's pretty cool going into next year. Oh, wow. So I think there'll be 2 for next year. I know there's some new mountain bike trails that'll be coming potentially soon, and and we'll build on it from there.
Oh, excellent. Well, Dave, thanks as always for hopping on here. And hold on while we go off air here. But thanks again. You and Amanda put a lot of labor and love into this, and it definitely shows. And everybody walks out with a smile. Cool. Except for that one person who we can't find. Just kidding.
They're out in the canyons.
Yeah, well, that comment earlier, maybe he had something to do with it.
Yeah, and Saturday night this year, it's going to actually start earlier. We did a concert last year. The Village series has like concerts that happen through August usually, and they've extended them in September. And so this year we're going to mix things up, but we're just going to start in the afternoon. And the mountain usually has these like apparate parties that happen in the afternoon with these DJs that are pretty popular. And so I'm just going to bring them in for the weekend, and we'll start at like 1 p.m. to make some noise in the background and have them go till 7. And then we'll open the bar to raise some funds for Eastern Sierra Avalanche Center. So for the last part, if anybody wants to help support some of the things that are good for the community and everything else, like stick around as you're enjoying your food, go have a beer or 2 and help support, other things that are going on here through the winter too.
Awesome. Well,
cool.
Dave, thanks again for joining, and it only gets tougher.
Explayer tough.
Had to leave with a dad joke.
Yeah. Thanks.
All right. Take care, everyone.
See you.